I'm going to take apart the binoculars, and I'm following the instructions on the Facebook page for the spy scopes. So I'm going to take apart the left side. The string here, the lanyard, is going into a nut, or a screw, which has a hole in the middle, and it unscrews. So I'm unscrewing that. Okay, so I've unscrewed that. Now inside of there, there's another screw, which is pretty hard to, I had to work pretty hard to get it loose. And I've got it loose now, and I want it to come all the way out. And okay, so now it's all the way out, and I'm not quite sure what happens next. Okay, let me turn off the camera, and then I'll figure out what happens next. Okay, so looks like there's a little ball bearing right here, and which acts as a sort of hinge. And I think that if I just pull on this hard enough, it's going to pop out. So, okay, well, one ball bearing came out, and this, oh, there we go. The second ball bearing has let go, and now I've got the two halves of the binocular taken apart. The next step is to take the rubber off the outside. So I've just got a sharp knife, and I hope I don't cut myself. So let's see about doing that. So I want to take the rubber off the body of this thing. Let's see, can I do that? Okay, it looks like I'm cutting down this way. Look at that. The rubber comes right off. I lost some little piece of plastic down here. Let's get that back. All right. And now what do I do? I think, okay, so here's the objective, the original objective. This is the eyepiece here. What I think I want to do is to get this objective out. And to do that, I think the obvious thing to do is to take this pin. You see there's this pin that was moving the objective back and forth. That was how you would focus the binoculars, but we're not using it that way anymore. So let's take this pin out. See if I can do that. All right, the pin came out. All right, and now I think I can just push the objective out. Look at that. It came right out. Okay, so now I've got the binocular objective, which I can save for some future project. I don't think I need it anymore. And this part I need. And this is going to go inside the telescope. And it's going to slide in and out. But unfortunately, these hinge pieces, those are going to be in the way. So I've got to cut these off. I want to take this hinge mechanism off of this tube that has the eyepiece, and it's also got the prism inside that flips the image from upside down to right side up. That's pretty important. And what I've done is I put some tape over the glass part of the eyepiece here. I put some tape over the open end of the tube, and there was also a hole here. I put tape over that because I don't want to get a lot of dust and stuff inside. And so, all right, and I want to take these things off. So I'm going to put it in a clamp, and it's a little scary because I don't feel like this tube is very strong. So I'm afraid I'm going to crush the tube if I squeeze it too much. So I'm just going to hold it just barely hard enough that it doesn't want to move. Okay, and let's see if I can cut this off. So I've got a hacksaw here, and let's give this a try. I can see it's cutting. I'm about a quarter of the way in there, and this brick is moving on me. All right, let's turn this off. You don't want to see the whole thing. So far, I've got the first one off, and I think I'm going to leave the second one on because the guy who did the Facebook page, he left the second one on. So I still need to file down this bump. I still need to file down this bump here. So that's going to be the next thing. Now I'm filing down that bump. And this is going to take some time because aluminum is not that easy to file off. So I guess you don't want to see all of that. Let's turn it off. Yeah, so actually it didn't take all that long. Maybe less than 10 minutes anyway. So I've smoothed it all down, and yeah, I don't feel any bumps. And the tape, looks like the tape held up. It kept all of that aluminum dust out. So I think we're good. Let's see what the next step is. A little problem with the instructions is they don't tell you how long to make the telescope tube. Right? This is 1¼ inch PVC pipe. It's going to be spray painted black on the inside, and this is the part of the binoculars that we just took apart, and this is actually going to go inside the telescope tube. But at this point, my problem is I don't know, should I cut the telescope tube here, or should I cut it here, or here? How long should it be, right? So that's really going to depend on the objective that you get. This is a 285 millimeter focal length objective. So the distance from the eyepiece to the objective should be 285 millimeters. But you got to add a little bit for the focal length of the eyepiece, but then you got to subtract a little bit because there's a prism inside. So really there's no way for me to know exactly how long it should be. So so let me show you my method. I hope this works. It should work. Way off over there, I can see the San Gabriel Mountains. I can see like the TV antennas and so on, and there's some trees way over there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to aim this thing over here. All right, so this is the inside of my house. I got to be in here because otherwise it's too bright outside. What I'm going to do is pretend my telescope already works. And so hopefully you can see me. I'm aiming my telescope at the mountains over there. The camera's going. And I put my objective here. And I start off with the objective kind of close, probably way too close. And I gradually move the objective away until I start to see an image. I should start seeing the trees way over there. And lo and behold, yeah, I see the trees. If I go too far, they're blurry. If I go too near, they're blurry. If I have it just right, they're in focus. Yes, that is the distance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pencil, I'm going to mark that sweet spot for the objective lens. I'll mark the front. I'll mark the front of this thing. Okay, so now I've marked where the front of the objective lens is going to go. Now what I'm actually going to do is, you see, so the objective lens is going to be inside the pipe, and it should be just right there. Now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cut it a little bit longer than that, because you can always make the pipe shorter, but it's really hard to make the pipe longer. So I'm probably going to end up cutting it about here, okay? Before I go, let me just point something out to you. You see, the focusing of this telescope is going to happen by sliding the eyepiece back and forth. So I have it taped in such a way that this thing could slide a little bit more forward, but it could slide a little bit more backwards. But you don't want to have this thing like all the way forward or all the way back. You got to think ahead. You got to think about how this thing is going to slide back and forth. Anyhow, if you make the pipe too long, it's no big deal. You can always shorten it. So make it, you know, a 1/4 inch too long and see what happens, and then we can make it shorter later on. I happen to have this nice electric saw that's set up to make nice square cuts, 90-degree cuts. But if you just have a hacksaw or a wood saw or, you know, a hand saw, that'll work too. It's just that it won't be perfectly perpendicular. But that's all right. Your telescope will still work. But since I have this nice saw, I'm going to go ahead and use it. Sweet. Okay, so these some sharp edges here, which I'm going to get rid of using sandpaper. So get rid of those sharp edges. I'll do a little bit more, but it's boring to look at. What I'm doing is I'm putting masking tape around this eyepiece tube, and the point is that I want the masking tape to kind of increase the diameter of this tube until it matches the inside diameter of the pipe. So I've got to, this is not the easiest thing to go. I want that masking tape to go on nice and straight. All right, there we go. Nice and straight. And so I wrap it on here. And so yeah, this is going to be boring also. I'm going to turn it off, but you get the idea, right? I'm building up the diameter here. Still building up the diameter. I've put round and round and round lots of masking tape. I put it on as smoothly as I could. To be honest, I'm surprised at how smooth it went on. I was being careful. And now what I want to do is make it so that it will slide in here with just the right amount of friction. Right now, I've got too much tape on it. It's not even going in. So I'm going to take off one turn of tape. Cut it off. Going in, too much friction. All right, another half turn. This is getting boring, huh? Maybe I'll edit this video. Get rid. Okay, there we go. Try again. Ooh, it's going in. Still just a little too tight. It'd be hard to adjust that. Okay, well, I want it to slide in and out easily enough that you don't go crazy focusing it, right? You don't want to have to fight with it when you're focusing, but you don't want it to be loose either, because if it's loose, then you'll have it focused, and then you just a second later it'll be out of focus because it's too loose, and you don't want it to move on you. Okay, so let's try again. All right, you see it goes smoothly in and out. All right. Okay, so now I need to do the same sort of thing for the objective, right? So the objective goes this way. It's going to actually be inside the pipe. It'll be maybe like in here somewhere, because remember, I made this pipe a little bit too long on purpose, so the objective will be in here somewhere. But anyhow, I need to put some tape so that it'll be nice and snug inside the pipe. So it's back to the masking tape. So it's coming along nicely. The only thing is I'm having a little more trouble getting this masking tape on without wrinkles. And that's because the tape is a bit wider than this brass cell. It's called a cell, the thing that holds the lens. It's called the lens cell. I've got enough tape on the objective, and it goes in without too much of a fight, but it's snug, and I don't think it's going to fall out. And I think it needs to go right, maybe like around here somewhere. Now, when I find the right spot, I'm going to put some glue to prevent it from moving. Okay, so let's see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and see if I can see those mountains off in the distance. Okay, so yeah, it works. This is where the eyepiece tube is when I'm looking at the top of the mountains way far away. Notice that it's kind of pushed in almost all the way. So what that tells me is I kind of want to move the objective lens maybe 1/4 of an inch, maybe 5 or 6 millimeters in this direction, so that then this thing will be about here or so when I'm looking at the stars. Now, another interesting thing about all of this is that I also tried to look at something nearby, like some flowers, 20 feet away, 3 or 4 meters away. And so to do that, I pulled it about to here. So that tells me that this telescope is going to be pretty good for stuff that's nearby, like birds and butterflies and so on, and it'll be pretty good for looking at the stars. Now, at this point, we're not quite done yet. One thing that I noticed is that the contrast is really low. I mean, things were pretty sharp looking, but they're all washed out. And the reason they're all washed out is because you got light bouncing around on the inside. So we need to paint the inside flat black, not glossy black, not shiny black, but flat black. All right, so I've got some cans of spray paint for that. Another thing is that you get light bouncing off of here. So for that, we need to put a shield at the end. And I've got my shield, here it is. Okay, so it's a 3/4 inch pipe coupler. So that's going to go on the end like that. This is also known as a dew cap because it prevents fog, mist, and so on from settling on your objective lens. So when all is said and done, this is what the telescope is going to look like. Black on the inside. Another thing that you still need to do is, one thing you're going to notice right away is that if you shake the telescope, things go crazy, right? So you want this telescope to not shake. So what you have to do is drill a hole at the balance point. That's what I was doing just now, trying to find the balance point. And so you drill a hole and tap it for a 1/4-20 thread. And the 1/4-20 thread is the standard camera holding thread or binoculars holding thread on tripods. So once you've got that hole with the 1/4-20 thread, then you can put it on a tripod and it'll be nice and steady, perfect for looking at Jupiter and Saturn and all of that. So now I am going to drill a hole for the 1/4-20 hole, the screw that's going to come from the camera, the tripod, the camera tripod that's going to hold this telescope. Okay, so that's the hole. Now what I have to do is work this tap in here. That'll cut the little threads that the screw is going to go into. I put the tap with this cutting edges in the drill, and I'm set the drill to the lowest speed, and I think that'll work okay. Just don't want to go too fast. Okay, went in all right. Now reverse. Okay. Looks reasonable. I think it'll work. So yeah, it works. I put the pipe here on my camera tripod. This is normally for the video camera, and so the 1/4-20 hole is just fine. It's now time to spray the inside of the telescope tube with flat black paint. All right, let's do that. So first, I'm going to do the dew cap. This is the dew cap. Let's do that one first. All right, nice and black. And so now let's do this one here. Ooh, that looks good. I finished the black paint, and so you can see it's in there. I've already put the objective lens in here, and here's the dew cap, which I had to clean up as well, which was also a bother, but anyway, I finally cleaned it using acetone. So the dew cap goes on here, and it pushes on away. It's hard to do that one-handed. Okay. And then, anyway, here is the eyepiece with the erector prism from the binoculars in it. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. And, wow, look at that. That is one cool looking telescope. And I want to test it out. I think Jupiter and Saturn are up. Time to go take a look at Jupiter and Saturn. Yay! Well, I can tell you that it does work. And you probably can't. Yeah, maybe you can see there's a bright thing there. That's Jupiter. And there's a not so bright thing over there. That's Saturn. And when you look through the telescope, it's pretty good. All right, so there it is. I've added a second roll of masking tape here. So now it's quite a bit more snug, and it doesn't have any tendency to jiggle up and down. I also added just a little bit of tape on the first turn, on the first roll, to get this one to be a little snug. I think that what's going on is that the tape is drying out gradually. You know, after a week or so, it got a little bit thinner. So if that happens to you, you can just add a little bit more tape. Just one more turn is plenty, and it's nice and snug. And by playing with the amount of tape, it goes in and out smoothly. Yeah, nice.